bred and red corner, wearing black with fuchsia and red trim. When he stepped on the scale, he weighed in at an official 145.5 pounds. Started from the bottom now. He enters the ring. In Omaha, Nebraska, Terence Crawford.
On 24 world title bouts, he is undefeated in his 18-year campaign with a record of 47 wins, no losses, 26 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the pound-for-pound great and the pay-per-view king, boxing's future Hall of Famer, the sensational 11-time world champion in 5 weight divisions. Please welcome the reigning, the defending, and the undefeated WCNWA welterweight and super welterweight champion of the world, introducing Floyd Mayweather.
What happens when boxing's most flawless defensive mastermind meets the most adaptable and ruthless technician of the modern era? Floyd Money Mayweather versus Terence Bud Crawford isn't just a fantasy matchup, it's a clash of eras, minds, and philosophies. One man built a perfect career on control, discipline, and mistake-free boxing. The other dominates by reading opponents in real time and dismantling them piece by piece. This fight isn't about hype or trash talk. It's about intelligence, patience, and the smallest margins that decide greatness. Today, we break down Crawford versus Mayweather to answer one of boxing's most debated questions: could anyone, even Terence Crawford, truly beat Floyd Mayweather? Floyd Mayweather represents the highest level of defensive boxing ever seen. Across multiple weight classes and against elite champions, Floyd perfected the art of winning without damage. His shoulder roll, razor-sharp counter right hand, and elite foot positioning allowed him to control distance better than anyone before or after him. Mayweather didn't just avoid punches, he forced opponents to miss by inches, mentally breaking them as the round slipped away. Fighters entered the ring with confidence and left confused, frustrated, and outclassed. Floyd's genius wasn't power, it was precision, timing, and an unmatched understanding of risk management. What made Mayweather truly special was his adaptability. Against aggressive pressure fighters, he stayed calm and turned their momentum against them. Against power punchers, he neutralized threats with movement and clinching. Against technicians, he slowed the pace and controlled exchanges. Floyd never needed to dominate violently. He dominated psychologically. Once he secured an early lead, he forced opponents into desperation where mistakes were inevitable. For over 2 decades, no one found the formula to consistently break through his defense. Terence Crawford, however, is a different kind of challenge. Crawford isn't just skilled, he's adaptive in ways few fighters ever have been. A natural switch hitter, Crawford can fight at an elite level from both orthodox and southpaw stances, seamlessly changing angles and rhythm mid-round. Early in fights, he often appears patient, even quiet, but that patience is calculated. Crawford spends those moments gathering data, reading reactions, and identifying weaknesses. Once he finds the opening, the fight shifts dramatically in his favor. Crawford's greatest strength is his ability to adjust under pressure. He doesn't rely on a single strategy. If something doesn't work, he changes instantly. His timing, counterpunching, and power in both hands make him dangerous at all ranges. Unlike many elite boxers, Crawford is just as comfortable fighting inside as he is boxing at range. When opponents begin to fade or hesitate, Crawford turns up the pressure and finishes with authority. That killer instinct separates him from most champions of his era. When these two styles collide, the fight becomes a mental chess match rather than a physical war. Mayweather would aim to control the early rounds by staying just outside Crawford's range, forcing him to lead and punishing him with clean counters. Floyd would use subtle foot movements to reset distance, never allowing Crawford to settle into a rhythm. Clinches, pivots, and sharp right hands would disrupt any forward momentum Crawford tried to build. Crawford, meanwhile, would look to disrupt Floyd's timing by switching stances and attacking the body. Rather than chasing Mayweather, Crawford would apply controlled pressure, cutting off angles and forcing exchanges along the ropes. The key for Crawford would be patience, waiting for moments rather than forcing action. He would attempt to bait Floyd into patterns, testing whether his legendary defense could still be cracked by someone capable of adjusting on the fly. The early rounds would be tactical and cautious. Mayweather would likely edge them with cleaner punches and superior ring control, while Crawford would spend time reading Floyd's movement and reaction. As the fight progresses into the middle rounds, Crawford's pressure would become more calculated. He would begin timing Floyd's exits, landing more frequently to the body, and forcing Mayweather to move laterally rather than backward. These rounds would be competitive, with momentum slowly shifting. In the later rounds, experience would play a decisive role. Mayweather has always been exceptional at closing fights. If he senses the scorecards are in his favor, he slows the tempo, minimizes risk, and steals rounds with well-timed counters and defensive mastery. Crawford would continue pressing, but the lack of clear dominance could work against him in a close fight. Without knockdowns or dramatic moments, the rounds would favor Floyd's efficiency and control. Several factors ultimately decide this matchup. Judges tend to reward clean, accurate punching and ring generalship, areas where Mayweather historically excels. Crawford's power and adaptability keep him dangerous throughout, but Floyd's defense limits the damage and prevents sustained momentum. In a prime-for-prime scenario, Mayweather's reflexes, discipline, and experience give him the slight edge in a fight defined by inches rather than explosions. The most realistic outcome is a competitive but clear decision victory for Floyd Mayweather, not because Terence Crawford lacks greatness, but because Floyd mastered the art of not losing better than anyone in boxing history. Crawford would push him, test him, and earn respect, but solving Mayweather completely remains a challenge no fighter has ever truly accomplished. That doesn't diminish Crawford's legacy. In fact, going toe-to-toe with the greatest defensive boxer ever only strengthens it. This fight wouldn't be remembered for knockouts or chaos. It would be remembered as a high-level masterclass in boxing intelligence, discipline, and strategic brilliance. What happens when boxing's most flawless defensive mastermind meets the most adaptable and ruthless technician of the modern era? Floyd Money Mayweather versus Terence Bud Crawford isn't just a fantasy matchup. It's a clash of eras, minds, and philosophies. One fighter represents perfection through control and discipline. The other represents evolution through adaptability and calculated aggression. This isn't about who hits harder or who talks louder. It's about who thinks faster under pressure and who controls the smallest details when everything is on the line. Floyd Mayweather built his entire legacy on eliminating risk. From the moment the bell rings, Floyd's focus is not domination, it's efficiency. Every movement has purpose, every punch is calculated, and every defensive motion is designed to frustrate the opponent. Fighters chasing Mayweather often feel like they are fighting shadows, swinging at air while rounds quietly slip away. This psychological pressure has broken elite champions long before the final bell ever rings. One of Mayweather's most underrated skills is his ability to dictate pace. He decides when the fight speeds up and when it slows down. Against aggressive opponents, he invites mistakes. Against patient fighters, he forces them to take risks. Floyd rarely loses control of a round once he establishes rhythm, and that rhythm has been the downfall of some of the most dangerous fighters in boxing history. However, Terence Crawford doesn't rely on rhythm in the same way most fighters do. Crawford thrives in chaos and adjustment. He doesn't need the fight to look a certain way to be effective. Whether he's moving forward, fighting off the back foot, or standing his ground, Crawford is always collecting information. Every reaction from his opponent becomes data, and that data eventually turns into punishment. Crawford's switch-hitting ability creates a unique challenge for Mayweather. Changing stances isn't just a visual trick, it alters angles, timing, and defensive reads. Against most fighters, Floyd can predict the next move based on positioning. Against Crawford, those predictions become less reliable. Crawford's ability to punch with authority from both stances forces constant recalculation, even for someone as experienced as Mayweather. As the fight progresses, the tension would steadily rise. The early rounds would be quiet but intense, filled with feints, small steps, and subtle adjustments. Casual fans might mistake this for inactivity, but boxing purists would recognize the battle happening beneath the surface. Each fighter would be testing reactions, looking for tells, and setting traps. that may not pay off until much later. In the middle rounds, Crawford would likely begin asserting himself more. His confidence would grow as he starts finding moments to land to the body and sneak punches through Floyd's guard. These wouldn't be dramatic exchanges, but they would be meaningful. Each clean shot would be a message proof that Mayweather isn't untouchable, even if he remains incredibly difficult to hit cleanly. Mayweather, however, has always responded best when challenged. As Crawford's pressure increases, Floyd would tighten his defense, increase lateral movement, and rely more heavily on clinches to disrupt rhythm. He would pick his moments carefully, landing clean counters just often enough to maintain control on the scorecards. Floyd doesn't need volume, he needs clarity, and judges have always rewarded that. The championship rounds would become a test of composure and experience. Crawford would push, knowing he needs decisive moments. Mayweather would slow the fight down, protecting his lead while still engaging just enough to avoid appearing passive. This is where Floyd's veteran instincts shine brightest, knowing exactly how much to do and when to do it. Another key factor in this matchup is mental discipline. Crawford has shown tremendous patience throughout his career, but fighting Mayweather requires resisting frustration for 12 full rounds. One emotional mistake can cost an entire fight. Floyd thrives in these situations, often baiting opponents into overcommitting and then punishing them for it. There's also the matter of legacy. For Mayweather, this fight is about preserving perfection. His undefeated record isn't just a statistic, it's a psychological weapon. For Crawford, this fight represents opportunity. Defeating Mayweather would place him in conversations reserved for all-time greats. That hunger could either elevate Crawford or push him into risks that Floyd is uniquely equipped to exploit. When all factors are considered, the most realistic outcome remains a close but clear decision victory for Floyd Mayweather. Not because Crawford lacks the tools, but because Floyd mastered the art of controlling fights without giving opponents what they want. Crawford would have moments, he would test Floyd, but sustained dominance against Mayweather has never been achieved by anyone. That said, Terence Crawford would likely give Floyd one of the most mentally demanding fights of his career. This wouldn't be a one-sided masterclass. It would be a high-level battle where every round matters and every mistake is punished. Crawford's adaptability ensures the fight remains competitive until the final bell. In the end, this matchup isn't about exposing flaws, it's about appreciating greatness. Two elite fighters from different eras, each representing the highest form of boxing intelligence in their time. Whether you favor Mayweather's perfection or Crawford's adaptability, this fight reminds us why boxing remains the ultimate thinking man's sport. Now the question goes to you, who wins this battle of minds, Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford? Does defensive perfection overcome modern adaptability, or does evolution finally catch up to legacy? Drop your scorecards and predictions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep, analytical breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more elite boxing content. This is Boxing Edge, where fight IQ meets real boxing truth. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.